Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome back to Unlocking Ilm. Today we are joined by a very special guest, one of our Miss partners this year, Brother Abu Bakr. Brother Abu Bakr graduated from Georgia Tech and is now a founder of multiple brands, Fahnoon and Foreigner. This year he is one of our Miss partners for the soccer jerseys. We are so excited to have you on today. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for the great honor. I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you for coming on today. Tell us about your college journey at Georgia Tech. What was your major?
Yeah, so I recently graduated from Georgia Tech last year. Started Georgia Tech back in 2020, if you all remember that, the COVID year. So not a very pleasant way to start your college experience, but it is what it is, right? We made through it. I was a business major, right? Where you don't see too many business majors, so alhamdulillah, right? It was a very interesting and nice 4 years, right? I learned a lot, right? I was able to meet so many amazing people. Shout out to the Georgia Tech MSA, right? I've been able to do so many things as well. Like, for example, go on a study abroad trip, to Europe, right? I've been able to start, my final sportswear brand while in college, right? And so many other things. I would say, my college journey has been, you know, full of learning, but also a very interesting journey.
MashaAllah. Well, you started multiple brands, right?
Yeah.
So, what inspired you to start your brands and become an entrepreneur? What did you do?
Yeah, that's interesting because when I started my first brand, Flora and Air, that was a few years ago, back in high school. It came as an accident, right? I didn't just wake up one day and say I want to become a business owner. It was back in 2016 in November. I was a freshman in high school, and we were on Thanksgiving break, right? One day, I just casually went to a nearby shopping mall that was near us, and I said, "Look, I wanted a job." All right, I was 14 years old at the time. I went to local shops, asking them if they could hire me, but at that time I was too young, and they said, "Yeah, we really can't hire you. Come back in 2 years," right? But the reason why I wanted to get a job is because I wanted to start being more independent, right, and not having to rely on my parents as much. But because they weren't able to hire me, I realized, well, my goals of being like independent shouldn't be like shut off till 2 years from now. That's when I realized, well, maybe I can start a business where I can hire myself, right? And that's when the whole entrepreneurial mentality came about. And yeah, the first brand is Foreigner, all about professional attire, right, for young adults. But now the Fahnoon brand, that came several years later when I came into college, and I noticed a gap in the market, right? As a Muslim, I love business and I'm also into sports. I realized, people in our demographic, the big brands out there do not cater to us, really well, especially regarding our religious beliefs. And one thing that Georgia Tech teaches you is when you see a problem, you got to solve the problem, right? So when I saw that, I took upon it as an opportunity to, create change, for my people, and that's how Fanoon came about. Our goal is to be the number one Muslim sportswear brand in the world.
Okay, now we know. How did the knowledge and businesses in your own life lead you to start business ventures like Fanoon?
Yeah. So I have to say, I really enjoyed the mentorship that I received over the years, right? And starting my businesses as a solo entrepreneur was a bit challenging, right? Because you know what they say, right? You can't do everything by yourself. So it was definitely a learning progress. But thankfully, I had friends and teams along the way to really help me out, right? For example, during my time at Georgia Tech, I connected with many people, like, for example, people who were really skilled at design, right? People who were skilled at web development for us to work together and see how we can take these brands to the next level.
Obviously, as a business owner, there are many hardships. What was one of the biggest hardships that you faced building your brand, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, it's very interesting because when I started my first brand, Foreign Air, back in 2016, things did not go well with my parents, right? They actually did not want me to start a business. And that traditional mindset. Our parents normally just want us to go to school, get a good education and get a good job. So when I first told them the news that, hey, mom, dad, I'm starting a business, they were totally against it, right? They told me, yeah, that's not going to happen. That's not why we brought you to America. Like, that's not why we took you to school. But I had to explain to them that, mom and dad, this is something that's good, right? This is something that has the potential to be something great, right, in the future, and potentially change our family situation, right? So that was the first struggle right there, right? Getting the family support, that was a very very big issue there. So I had to resort to like other means of support for the time being, like friends, and other relatives, right? Now, and also the next thing, the financial support, right? Because I wasn't getting support from family, I had to look to other resources, and then I started, finding mentors and all that stuff. And oh yeah, and I would say like the last thing, right? Because I was very new into this, right? Yeah, I would say my lack of experience, at the time, also like hindered my success. But the mentorship thing really helped me out in the long run.
What was one of the most rewarding parts of being a business owner?
Yeah, one of the most rewarding things about being a business owner, and the reason why I really like the clothing industry, is seeing people every day in the wild, wearing my clothing, right? Seeing that, I actually made that. More so for the Muslim sportswear brand, because I can see that I'm actually making an impact in a demographic that I'm part of, right? Right. So like, as opposed to these big brands out there who for a very long time neglected us, right? They didn't make appropriate sportswear, modest sportswear that we could wear. By me seeing, people out there in the public, wearing the modest clothing that we're creating, it just fills my heart.
What lessons have you learned as a Muslim entrepreneur, and how do you put that knowledge into your day-to-day work?
Yeah, so one of the lessons that I learned as a Muslim entrepreneur is, the value of mentorship, right? Don't try to do everything yourself, right? Try to delegate tasks, because there's going to be people out here who are more knowledgeable than you, more experienced than you at certain things, and it will be much better for you to work with them as opposed to trying to do everything yourself. It's just more efficient that way. But also, the next thing that I learned as a Muslim entrepreneur is that you can't do certain things that other entrepreneurs do, right? Like, for example, with this whole Fahnoon modest sportswear clothing, when we're coming up with these designs, right? Obviously, we are looking at the best interest, of the people who we are targeting, right? Muslims, right? And we know that Muslims have a certain dress code, right? So we can't, follow the trends of what's currently going on in the sportswear market, which is producing super tight clothing, right, for the sisters, right, revealing clothing, and for the guys, super short shorts, right. We can't follow that trend, right. So even though that's what's going on right now, we have to, hone down on our niche and maintain our roots, and become different that way.
What does leaving a legacy mean to you personally, and how do you hope your work leaves legacies for others?
Yeah. So I'm an immigrant. Came to the U.S. back in 2007. I wasn't born here. I was born back home in West Africa, but obviously I've been here for a few years now. When I first came here, one thing that my dad told me is that the reason why him and my mother brought me here was to provide me a better a life opportunity, right? And he always tells me that my parents, they didn't go to school, and he wanted me to come here or get a good education or get a good job to basically be the first in the family to do that, right? But I want to take it, a step further. Yes, alhamdulillah, I got my college education, but also now I want to start, I want to leave, a legacy behind when it comes to right this brand, right? I want this brand to be bigger than me, right? I want it to be known as like I said, the number one Muslim sportswear brand in the world. But not only just the naming, I want the impact to be there.
Your Fahnoon, your sportswear brand, helped us with the missed soccer jerseys. What made you want us to support us?
Yeah, I have to shout out, my guy Hamad here, right? One of my friends at Georgia Tech. So one day I was just casually thinking, this Fahnoon brand, we can take it to the next level by partnering with different, right, local Muslim organizations or local Muslim schools because they too themselves uh, may have that desire, right, for Muslim sportswear, right? And then I realized, well, a good place to start is in my local community, right? So I just reached out to some friends, at school and asked them, hey, are your local masjids looking for, a Muslim sportswear provider, right? And then I got connected to Hamad. He connected me right to RCM, and then eventually right ILM Academy here, and then the missed competition is coming up, and I was like, perfect timing, right? So I have to, right? I'll give credit to Hamad there, but I have to say this is just the first step, right? Eventually, we would like to partner with many other sports organizations and just keep on growing. And I would like to thank, the ILM Academy team for trusting us in this process and giving us the opportunity to help you all out this year.
We would like to thank you for your support. If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Yeah, it would be, if you have something good going for yourself, right? A good vision, and it goes according to the teachings of Islam, and that this can benefit humanity, go for it, right? Don't let people hold you back. Don't let people stop you because actually this final sportswear brand of mine is a continuation, is an extension of my foreigner brand. The reason why I say this is because if I had listened to my parents in the very beginning, and just quit and shut everything down, I would not have been able to expand and be at the current position that I am right now. So, yeah, that's my advice. If you have something good going for yourself and it aligns with what Islam teaches, go for it. Do not let anybody stop you. And inshallah, you're going to see khair in it.
Inshallah. Jazakallahu khair for coming on today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.